Salutations, tubers. Welcome back to the lab room. This time around, we'll be doing a little bit of an ad hoc review on this, which is the Lionel Lionchief 280 Consolidation steam locomotive. It's actually a fairly new release by Lionel. They've started putting this into starter sets and as a separate sale item, but it's actually got some old roots. It actually, for those of you who may not be aware, this is an old MTH Rail King tooling. When Mike Wolf retired from MTH and the company decided they were going to downsize their product line, a lot of their toolings got sold off to both Atlas and Lionel. Lionel happened to get quite a few of the old Rail King toolings, and so they basically spiffed it up and made some changes. So, insofar as the actual model, it's fairly identical, but when it comes down to the mechanical differences, the main difference is instead of a fan-driven smoke unit, you have the old-style mechanical puffer type, which is driven off the motion of the wheels. I consider that a bit of a downgrade from the MTH model. Because, I mean, it is nice to have fan-driven smoke, and I don't know why they could have just left it alone and left the fan-driven smoke. Another mechanical difference on the inside, the motor is slightly different, but it still has a flywheel. It's a pretty good little motor, so not too much of a downgrade there. I think they did pretty good with the motor. Moving back, instead of the old-fashioned wire tether from the engine to the tender, we now have the Lionchief plug type to send power from the locomotive back to the tender. And since the locomotive is the only thing picking up on this, you have to have that tether. So you'll have the sounds playing from the tender speaker back here. Another mechanical difference is that instead of an electrocoupler, we have a old-fashioned mechanical plunger type coupler. I mean, it is another bit of a downgrade, but nonetheless, it is a very good little coupler. Other than that, there isn't too many mechanical differences. The only other differences I've tended to notice is on the MTH version, which I also happen to have. Up here on the number board, this is blank, and on this one it's got the number printed on it on the number board on the headlamp. So I don't know if that's a Lionel versus MTH thing, or whether that is a Pennsylvania Railroad versus a ATSF Railroad deal, because the Rail King one I happen to have is in Pennsylvania colors. So make that what you will. Another little change that was made is up here on the MTH one, these marker lights will illuminate along with the headlight. But on the Lionel one, these don't light up. So I don't know whether they put a little blanking plug in there or whether they didn't add in a couple little light bulbs, or I don't know what the deal is, but might be something I will do in the future, is maybe see about getting these going again. Might have to put in an LED or something, but that's a future project. Another little difference is the builder's plate. On the MTH one, this is blank. But for whatever reason, on this one, they actually have a legible builder's plate. And it's a little too teeny to read here. I'm pretty sure you won't be able to see it here on camera. But underneath the magnifying glass, it says it is from the American Locomotive Company, the Richmond Works, and it gives a serial number and a build date of February 1926. So I don't know how accurate that's going to be, or whether they just poached that off a particular engine, but it is very neat to see a basic entry Lionchief model get a legible builder's plate. That's something you usually only see in Lionchief Plus and Legacy locomotives. So really interesting detail. Moving back to the cab, just like the MTH one, we've got our two little crew figures and the basic back head. Very neat. And only other real difference I've noticed is the bell is gold on this one instead of silver. So I guess it's just that's what they decided to paint it. But other than that, pretty close. The locomotive is die-cast, and the tender has a die-cast plate, but the actual body is plastic, so basically the same. So with all that said and done, I guess there isn't much left to do but fire this baby up and show you the working features. So, un momento por favor, while I track down my universal remote and turn on the transformer. So, we'll turn on the transformer, take her up to 18 volts. and you hear the chirp, so we know it's looking for a control signal. So we have our universal remote, since we're filming with the phone and won't be able to use the Cab 3 / Lionchief app. So go ahead, and I've got this one set to number 2. So yeah, there we go. We now have our headlight working, and we've got our user operated sounds, our whistle. I really like that they put a different whistle in than the basic hooter whistle they've been putting in a lot of their Lionchief engines. So that's pretty cool. And we've got our crew talk.
Dispatcher here. Start her up. Stand by for track orders. Over. Yes, sir. Start up and stand by. Out. Dispatcher, my engine's ready. Can I pull? Over. Please stand by. Out. Dispatcher, trains buckle together. Can I get a go? Over. Negative. Hold your position. Over. Okay. Understood. Out. I'm ready to roll, dispatcher. Can I get to the main line? Over. Roger that. Take the green. Over. Roger that. Cleared outbound. Out.
I mean, you can either take or leave the crew sounds, but I kind of like the crew talk sounds. And it's nice to have a different set than other Lionchief engines I've looked at fairly recently. So good job, Lionel, on that. And of course, we've got our bell. The only further remark I'll make before we couple onto our train and take it for a few laps is about the sound system. It's kind of basic. It's got a couple little issues with it. One is it's kind of soft. I've noticed this in some of the more recent Lionchief and entry-level releases, is the speakers are really soft. I don't know whether that's because they're using a more affordable type of speaker or they're worried about kids, bugging the parents, but it's a little too soft. And even on max volume, which this is presently set to, when the engine gets going, all the metal sounds of the train running down the track will tend to drown out the sound, and that's something I don't really like. But, something I can live with. And another thing is the basic nature of the sound system, because it's basically got 2 channels that can run at any one time. So the one channel is taken up with the idle and chuffing sounds, which you're hearing right now. And, yeah, you get that, the chuffing sounds. And then you've got the user-activated sounds. So the problem with that is when you blow the whistle, you can't ring the bell and hear it at the same time. It's either and or. So if you trigger the crew talk, it'll interrupt the bell, so on and so forth. So that would be something maybe Lionel would want to work on. I know these are entry-level products, but it would be something to adjust in the future. Another thing that's a bit of an issue with this one, I don't know if it's a fault or whether it's just the nature of the beast, but when this thing gets to running, the puffer unit is a little stiff, and it tends to clank, and it tends to make the engine jump a little bit. It tends to wobble. So I don't know whether that's a fault or whether I'm going to have to go in. I mean, it doesn't hurt it badly enough to derail it or seriously, hurt it. But, another reason to keep the fan-driven smoke unit, I guess. And I guess as for concluding remarks before we go couple onto the train, this is kind of another little happy accident of a find. I found this one on eBay through a private seller, kind of like I found my U.S. Army Prairie through trains. I guess similar sort of deal. Only thing I can surmise with the price that was being asked for this was about $100 off the MSRP. Is that the guy bought it and didn't want it and just wanted to be rid of it or whatever. For whatever reason, this showed up at a significant discount and I jumped on it. So, only other thing I think to say is that if were you going to go out and buy one of these, I'd say yes with caveats. If you're willing to accept a few limitations, this is a decent beginner's engine or a good budget engine. But if you want a little bit extra, you might go looking for the MTH Rail King version, because it has so many more features, which even on a conventional layout you can play with, like the passenger and freight announcements, and you can do the electrocoupler. I mean, it's just a more refined product. And for what these things are being charged for, I mean, I don't know. For me personally, I would suggest maybe looking for these when they go on sale, or waiting a little bit. Maybe doing like I did and find one that somebody didn't like or whatever. But all in all, it's not a bad little engine. I do intend to keep this one. So enough of me waffling on. I suppose we'll go collect a train and do a few laps, shall we? So back down and couple up. Okay, coupling's made. And away she goes. That's about max speed right there. But then again, consolidations like this weren't made for speed, they were made to pull hills. So there we have it, folks. The Lionchief 280 consolidation. See you next time, I suppose.